All right. This is the spa guy. Finally get to meet the spa guy. I have to tell you my spa guy story, spa guy.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going through YouTube,
Okay.
okay? And I come across in my AI, kind of up on, my page. I see spa guy,
Yeah.
Elvis something,
Yeah.
something. I'm there, what the
Yeah.
hell is
What is that?
this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so I'm there. Okay, it seems so odd that I said, okay, I'll bite. I'll see what it is.
Yeah.
I was so impressed. I was so fascinated. And
Cool.
the archaeology, the forensics you've done on Elvis over the years is just unbelievable. I have, there have been things you have discovered that, all through Elvis's career and life and post death, nobody's been able to find out.
Well, I have been fortunate,
Oh,
and I'm a fan, and as a fan, I've said this before in videos. The way this all came about is as a fan. I'm 56 years old, so I was 12 years old in '77 when he passed away. So once he passed away, I was a fan. Elvis was always a household name to me
okay.
as a kid.
Well,
I knew exactly who Elvis was.
you were
In my
born.
mind, it was "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog." That was, a Jailhouse Rock. You knew this. He was iconic in my household
But
because I had a musical family, so I knew exactly who Elvis was.
okay,
All my whole life,
okay,
it was a thing.
okay.
As a kid, we imitated Elvis.
Yeah,
You ain't
okay.
nothing but it,
Now
So that was a thing.
you were born here in Tennessee,
Now, I
right?
was born in North Carolina. I'm from
Ah,
North
okay,
Carolina
okay,
originally.
okay,
And so he was always just part of the fabric of America to me.
okay, okay,
Part of the fabric of music.
okay.
So in '76, I had a friend, a neighbor, Troy Robinson, and I'm getting ready to do a video about Troy. Sadly, he's passed away. But Troy was a neighbor, and he invited me to come to his house. And his dad owned a jewelry company. They owned Robinson Jewelers in Greenville, North Carolina. And so I was always impressed that they owned this company. They owned this jewelry
right,
company.
right.
So I thought, well, I get to go to this guy's house and be friends with him. So I remember going in his bedroom, and he had these. I'm gonna set my coffee down. He had these records. I remember it was about that wide. It was albums stacked up side to side to side on a corner like a bookcase.
Right, right.
And I looked at those albums and I thought, what is that? And he said, those are records. They're Elvis records. And I went, Elvis records? He said, yeah, I collect Elvis records. So he got some of the records out and started playing me songs and stuff. And he said, I tell you, I'll sell you this cassette for $1. So I bought Aloha from Hawaii on cassette from Troy
Oh,
Robinson.
don't tell me what you're going to tell me.
And so I went home and popped that thing in. You remember back, the tape players were this big, the cassette player. And I popped
I
it in.
remember.
And I went home, and we lived in a trailer. I lived like a block and a half from Troy's house. And I remember going home and
Press play.
and I laid on that thing and laid it in my bed and just listened to it night and day and fell in love with the music and went, wow, this is something,
Spa guy, I must tell you,
Yeah.
Aloha was
Yeah.
my introduction
Yeah.
to. And once you hear it,
It's
there's no stopping.
it's
You
just
just go.
magic, man.
You just
You know.
go.
And so during that time, there wasn't a lot of Elvis stuff. You go in the store and
Oh.
there wasn't a lot of records around. And
We could
stuff,
talk.
But after he died, there was magazines, there was stuff.
Because
Camden records.
RCA released all this stuff
went
that they'd been
crazy.
holding back.
Right.
You
So
know?
I started buying those magazines and reading them and buying books. And I did my ninth grade book report on the, I can't remember the name of the book, but I could see it.
Elvis, what happened?
No, this
Albert
was,
Goldman.
this
Elvis.
This would have been a real thin paperback book that was sold through the school. Scholastic.
Oh, I have no idea.
And you could order it.
Okay.
And I saw it and went,
Okay.
oh, I've got to have that. So that was my
Oh,
first. And I
okay.
still have
Oh,
the book.
my. Hey.
I did my ninth grade book report on that book.
Very cool.
So I did that. And so my education with Elvis was the National Enquirer.
Yeah,
All these
same
magazines.
Here. Same here.
Because
Yeah.
every convenience store you went in had these Elvis magazines.
Right, right,
So I learned about Ginger and Linda and
right,
all of these different characters in the story.
right.
And I romanticized the story, and it
Hmm.
became something that I just loved the whole story.
Yeah,
Memphis Mafia, you
yeah.
get all these different
Right,
people and all these
right.
different facets to the story. So, but that was all you had. There was no internet. You had to learn your stories
Right.
from reading books and looking at
Yeah,
the magazines.
and so many books and magazines were failing in what the truth was.
Oh,
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? I mean, whatever it was. I
That's
mean,
exactly right.
you know, the Albert Goldman book, or
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
But you read them and you wonder about the stuff. So what I did was I started getting the stories in my head. And I met Scotty Moore and became friends with Scotty, read Scotty's book. And
fantastic episodes.
So what I did was you have these visions of what the story was.
What?
But to make the story really come to life, you had to imagine what it was like when Elvis went to Scotty's house and auditioned for him to the apartment.
Fantastic.
So I wanted to see what that apartment looked
Right,
like.
right.
So what I started doing was seeking these places out. And I came to Graceland the first time, 1988, and you probably know the story. I borrowed a camera from someone and jumped the fence and went through the barns and stuff in Graceland and took photographs.
Was it
and all that
open
kind of
at
stuff.
the?
Yeah, it was open 1988. Yeah.
Okay.
But I jumped the
And
fence
why
and
did you
went-
do that?
Because I wanted to see that
Oh,
stuff. You know, I had
you couldn't pay a
romanticized that
ticket,
stuff
and
to the point. Well, I did that too, but I wanted to go on the tour that nobody got. to
right.
go.
I hear you.
So I
Okay.
jumped the fence and took photographs.
Very
of it. And
funny.
I've got a video, and I'll show you some
Very
photographs I took.
funny.
And I filmed things that weekend. I didn't take a film camera across the fence, but I
Right.
took a still camera across
Right.
the fence, and got caught and held in the guard shack for a period of time.
Yeah.
They didn't call the cops or anything. They
Okay.
were very nice.
Yeah.
But I did do that because
That's very
I
funny.
wanted to know so much about the story. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
see.
I
I know
wanted
what
to
you said.
submerge
Yeah,
myself in
you know,
actually seeing the real stuff.
yeah. And that's what you do in your episodes. You really, like, you get to the real thing, you
Well,
know?
yeah.
And it may take some detective work, but you do the groundwork, you do the reading work, and you match, you know, you show your viewers the reality.
Yeah, well, I
You
want
know?
to bring the story to life, and I
Yeah,
kept going
yeah.
there and saying, "This is what it looked like then.
Yeah.
This is what it looked like now. This is what happened here."
It's
I think
very
that helps.
cool.
And look,
Very
I'm not
cool.
100% perfect in all of my videos. I'm gonna be honest, because you think you know something, and then you find out later, well, that's not true because
Yeah.
you read it in a book. Or
Oh,
so
see.
there's a lot of that stuff. I know a lot more now than I knew in the beginning, and there's things that I've said in videos that are not accurate.
Okay.
But I try to fix that in another video and go, hey, I said this, but this
Now,
is...
let me ask you this. And this was one of the big ones for me. You talk about myth and
Yeah.
creating the world in
Yeah.
your head.
There's a lot of this.
Yeah. My Happiness was not recorded by Elvis for his mother.
No, that is not accurate at all.
I lived with that for
you know,
years. I grew up with that.
Well, the story is this. A lowly truck driver walked into Sun Studios and recorded a record for his mother. That's the scenario. That's what everybody
That's what
knows the story.
everybody grew up on. Yeah.
Okay, so he was not a truck driver. Okay, that's not factual. It was never Sun Studios, ever.
Oh,
It was Memphis Recording Service.
Oh, before Sun. Was
It
Sam
was Sun
Phillips?
Records. It was never Sun Studios.
Okay,
It was
but
Memphis
okay,
Recording
all right,
Service
okay,
and Sun Records.
right.
The reason it's Sun Studios
Okay,
is Shelby Singleton owns Sun Records.
okay,
He owns the name Sun Records.
okay,
So they went Sun Studios so they could say it
okay.
and not step
all
on
right,
the
okay.
copyright.
Yeah,
You see
okay,
what I'm saying?
right.
So,
I know.
So that's
Okay, all right.
very technical.
Yeah,
That's
very
accurate.
technical.
Okay, so and the other thing is Gladys never heard that record.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
the story.
That is so
Ed
funny.
Leak gave him the money
Oh,
to record
my.
that. He took that record to Ed Leak's house, and I later heard the story. I never got to talk to Ed Leak. Sadly, he passed away. But I had a friend that knew Ed Leak
Yeah.
that did talk to Ed Leak
Yeah.
about the story. And what he said Ed told him was that he said when Elvis came to Ed's house, he walked in the house and Ed and his mother were sitting in the living room. They were such good friends that he didn't knock on the door. He opened the door and went in the house,
Yeah,
sat in the
yeah.
living room, and said, "Well, I've done it." He said, "You did what?" He said, "Well, I finally got up the nerve and went and recorded. I recorded the record." He said, "Well, where is it?"
Yeah.
He said, "I left it out front in the planter." He'd left it outside in the planter out in the front of the house. So he said, "Well, go get it." He went out there, and then they played that record in his house. He said that Ed told him that they put the record on, him and his mother and Elvis listened to it, and they said, "Man, that sounds great." And Elvis said, "Nah, it's not great," and left it there.
Okay.
And then years later, Ed Link passed away. Ed never sold it, but he did show it to people.
Yeah.
And when he passed away, the family found it in the safe and sold it, and now it belongs to Jack White from the White Stripes.
Right. Now,
it's in the Country Music Hall of Fame or Jack White.
Yeah. Did he basically want to hear his voice on a recording?
He wanted to get it over with. Let's get it done. And he wasn't satisfied with it, so he never wanted anybody to hear it.
So what was the point of recording?
I think he wanted to get over that hump, get that done, and move on. And
what do you mean?
He heard it, he didn't like his voice. I don't like to hear myself
he didn't like his voice.
I don't think he did. I don't like to hear myself sing. You know, I have an album out. I've recorded an album.
But have you heard Elvis's voice?
Yeah, but I mean, it was recorded on a record cut. And it's not great. It's it's okay. It's still Elvis. I agree with you.
But
I think we're all oftentimes our own worst critics. So he wanted it to be better than it was, so he left it there. And at the time, they didn't own a record player.
Was he going to give it to his mother?
I don't think so.
Okay,
because it was supposed to be for his mother's birthday.
Yeah.
And his mother's birthday was in.
Yeah, you said that.
June?
Yeah, you said that in the video.
This in July or August.
Yeah,
so it just doesn't add up.
Yeah,
and I think the narrative comes from Sam Phillips. Sam was really good at creating narratives, and I think that was his narrative. This truck driver, his mother, a record for his mother. So I think he's the one that put that narrative out there.
I see.
Which took and became.
It became gospel.
The average Elvis fan, the average person that is just a casual Elvis fan. If you ask them, they would tell you that story. They know. Right.
That's my story. I grew up with it.
But it is not factual.
Yeah. And see, that's what I like about your episodes is that you show the reality of Elvis's the Elvis story, and it's so well done, and it's so studied and learned.
And I'm getting better. I've learned a lot more. So we're
very impressive.
Better. And now we're finding things that you don't even know are lost, like the ambulance. Who knew the ambulance even existed?
I'll tell you, the first time I heard that, I'll be honest with you, Spa Guy, I'm there, prove it.
Yeah.
And I think it was the next video you put out, you proved it.
Yeah. When we got it, I had to trust, and I'll be honest, there's an element of doubt in me too.
Yeah.
But they had paperwork.
You got to have the province of
that it was the Elvis ambulance.
Right.
And he bought it under that pretense. Now the guy that bought it sadly had passed away. I was dealing with his widow and the family. But according to the provenance that I had, it was the Elvis ambulance.
Yeah.
So then I put the video out. Somebody shows it to Bill Edelman, which is the curator of the Memphis Fire Museum that's worked in the fire department since 1977.
I see.
That was familiar with it. What happened was Bill watched the video, put something on the museum website about the video and said, "Hey, I took this picture in 1991."
Right.
So he had a photograph of it in 1991 before it was sold at auction, and it matches that unit.
Yeah.
So then I contacted Bill when I saw the photograph and said, "Hey, would you like to come?" So he came, nicely came here, backed up the provenance of it, and explained the details of the provenance, the details of the F479 on the unit.
And you shot that as a video too, to the fans, to prove to them
in 2018. That was way back.
Yeah.
What are you finding? Okay. What are they finding out there? And I'm sorry, I know you're
no problem.
Yeah, I didn't talk to him because we're leaving. You didn't know this.
Filming out.
Let's see. Now, How did you begin on YouTube?
All right.
You began as Spa Guy?
Yes, I started making YouTube videos in 2009. I own a hot tub company in Nashville, which is
Yeah.
called the Spa Guy.
Yeah, and I've seen some of those episodes.
Yes. And I
And
started my company in 2005. So it took 4 years. What happened is I went out and worked on hot tubs. It was me by myself in a pickup truck. And I started the company and started I found out that nobody wants to work on hot tubs. I grew up in the swimming pool business. My dad's a pool builder.
I see.
So I grew up kind of in that business. He didn't really do hot tubs, but it's a similar business.
Right, right.
But I worked in the car business for the first, from 18 to 35, I was in the car business.
Okay.
I was a service manager at a Ford dealership.
All right.
And I moved to Nashville in 1999, the end of 99, when I was 35 years old, to pursue country music, singing.
Ah.
And I sing and play in bands.
Oh, very cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
And so I'm a musician. And when I came to town, I started a company, automotive related company, with another company in Nashville and pursued that. So I basically tried to make a living.
Yeah,
So
well, you got to eat.
I didn't get a chance to, I wasn't willing. I had a wife and 2 children, so I was never willing to. There's a lot of musicians that sacrificed everything for music.
No.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I had to be a responsible person.
Right.
And so I couldn't sacrifice everything for my wife and my kids. So I always had a job. I was always doing something. So I never really got to pursue music, really, because I was busy trying to make a living.
Right.
And that's being honest.
Okay.
Although I played some music, I played. I traveled. I got an album out. I traveled and opened for a Christian. I put out a Christian album.
Oh,
and
very
I traveled
cool.
and opened for a Christian country band called Jackson Heights. And a lot of those guys are from or lived in my hometown in North Carolina. So I knew those guys, even though most of them live in Nashville now.
Okay.
But some of them still live in Kinston, North Carolina. And so I traveled. I was their opening act. So I would get on the bus and travel with them and open for them and support my album. When the Elvis stuff started going, when the YouTube stuff started going, and I'm getting a little bit ahead, but I'll go back.
Okay.
I had to kind of back up off of that a little bit because I couldn't do both. The video started kind of overtaking, so I had to back up. So let's go back to 1999. So when I opened the company, I started fixing hot tubs on my own, and the company just blew up. I ended up working 15-hour days, 6 days a week. I had so much business, I literally could not do it all.
Good for you.
So I bought a van. I moved to the van. I had a little Ranger pickup truck, and I hired somebody and put them in the Ranger. So then we got so busy, I bought another van, put them in the van, hired somebody, put them in the Ranger. We just kept going until I had a fleet of trucks.
Right.
And so then I started selling hot tubs. So I thought, well, that's a good medium. YouTube would be a good medium. I'll put the videos on YouTube, kind of like a used car salesman. I got this hot tub for sale. So I would make those videos. If you go back, they're still on YouTube and from 1999. So I had that, and then I started doing how-to videos. So I put those on there, and I started selling hot tub parts online on eBay and Amazon and my own website, which is Hot Tub Parts of America. I own American Spa Parts, Hot Tub Parts of America, Nashville Spa Covers. I'll have a lot of different, different internet companies now, all hot tub parts related type stuff. And we've been very, very, very successful. I'm very, very fortunate, very blessed that, the Lord lines those things up. And that's allowed me to be able to do something like this.
I was about to say, who runs the company?
Well,
because you always seem to be out of the office.
Yeah, David Gould has really stepped up, and also a young man named Logan Robinson. Logan's brother is a country music star. His name is Dylan Scott. He's signed with Curb Records. They're on tour right now with Luke Bryan. And Logan, because of COVID, they weren't playing. So Logan is his brother's guitar player. If you look at the videos, it's a long-haired guy with a really, really good guitar player, really good singer. And they go out. So now they're back out on the road. But during the meantime, Logan really helped fill in while I was gone.
I see.
And so you'll see Logan. If you go and look up Luke Bryan or Dylan Scott, you'll see Logan playing. If you watch this video and you see Logan, tell him that you saw him, you heard about him on there, because he was the integral part of this. It was important. Those two guys really stepped up and made it possible for me to be here.
Now, let me ask you also personally, what about the wife?
Well, that's
You know,
good.
I mean,
That's a good question.
what's the
So,
difference between doing this and touring
well,
if you live in
not a
Nashville?
lot of difference. So originally, when Pat and I talked about doing this project together, we had enough money we paid cash for this building. It's paid for. And we had enough money to do the build out on this. And our plan was not for me and him to physically do the build out on this.
Right.
Well, you know what happened with COVID?
Yeah.
Suddenly,
Well,
everybody's busy
Yeah.
or nobody's working.
right.
It's one
right.
of those two
yeah.
scenarios.
Right.
Or if they're going to come work, the money was just crazy.
Yeah.
You know. So we found ourselves in here looking around going, I finally looked at Pat one day and said, look, if we're going to do this, me and you're going to have to do this.
Oh, okay.
And I have, I'm fortunate to have a background in, I'm not I was taught from my dad that if our washing machine broke, we just fixed our washing machine.
Right,
We called
right.
somebody.
Yeah.
If our car
Right,
broke, we
right,
called
right.
somebody. And that's how I got
That's
the car
exactly-
business.
yeah.
I lied to a guy and told him I was a mechanic, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I started working at a car dealership. In 3 months, I was the lead
Yeah.
technician. I just have an aptitude for being able to fix things.
Father was the same
or
way.
build things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For some reason, I just have this
Yeah,
skills to do
yeah,
this. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't have any training in it.
Yeah,
I just know how
yeah,
to do stuff.
yeah.
So Pat said, well, man, I don't know how to do that kind of stuff. I said, you don't need to. You just, if you're here to help me, hand me stuff.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
get this done.
yeah.
So me and him started tearing walls
Yeah,
out. And
I saw the
restoring stuff
episode.
and doing all
Yeah,
that. You saw
yeah.
the episode.
Yeah.
So he and I did pretty much probably 90% of this,
Yeah.
including these drop ceilings and building these walls and all this.
So
stuff,
are you home most of the time in Nashville, or do you commute?
I stayed here 5 days a week for about 6 months. So what I
Okay.
would do is come here and stay.
Okay.
And
But that's no longer the case, is it?
well, I'm still here about 5 days a week
Oh,
right
you
now
are? Okay.
because
Okay.
up until Elvis week, I'll be here
Right.
that long.
Okay.
After
Okay.
Elvis week, I'm gonna try to go back to my normal life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe come here a couple times a month or something
Yeah.
like that. But until we're trying to get this thing off the ground,
Right,
so we're all
right.
trying to be here.
Now I
supporting.
saw your lineup for Elvis Week,
Yeah,
and I must say it's quite impressive.
yeah. We've
And
got
and now let me ask you this: how did you get Dave Hebler?
well, Dave Hebler was here doing karate. He's in those videos.
I know he was a
So-
very close. He was part of. He was part of one of the guys.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
he was Elvis'
what did he
bodyguard.
do after? I haven't seen him on any of the talk shows or the forums or the
Yeah, I mean, he's done a handful of
interviews.
things,
Or
and I think Dave is 82 now.
is he?
But he seems to be in good health.
Yeah.
And man, he's really, really sharp. If you hear him talk, he is very learned, man.
Yeah.
You can tell by hearing him talk, he's educated.
Yeah.
And Dave was here doing John Daly's event. So John Daly always does an Elvis Con event here.
I see.
So he's been doing that. You've seen him in the videos.
Yeah,
I attend
yeah,
that event.
yeah.
And we're not trying to step on John's stuff.
Yeah.
But we're going to be open later.
Yeah.
John usually is closed at 6. So Dave will be at John's event during the day. And then he's going to come
Very
here
cool.
and do an event for us
Very
at
cool.
night.
Very
So
nice.
he'll just be there signing autographs
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And then we have Ron Strauss, the co-pilot of the Lisa Marie. I'm friends with Ron, but Ron's also doing John's event.
Great episode
And
too.
I'm friends with Dean Nicopolis. And a lot of people don't know that Dean is, a lot of people just go, well, that's Dr. Nick's son. How does he play into this? Well,
He
he's
was
actually a lot
Yeah.
bigger role than Dr. Nick's son. Dean taught Elvis how to play racquetball.
Oh, he
If
did.
it wasn't for Dean Nicopolis, Elvis wouldn't play racquetball.
Yeah.
Dr. Nick thought that Elvis is like me. He didn't like to exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So teaching him how to play racquetball and getting him interested in
I
that
see.
was a way to get him to
I
exercise.
see. Yeah. Yeah.
So Dean was 15 years old when he started teaching Elvis how to play
Okay,
racquetball.
okay.
When he turned 18, Elvis asked him to come to work for him, and he actually went on tour.
Yeah.
Dean stayed with Elvis. When you were a valet, there was 4 valets. There was Al Strada, Dean, Ricky, and David Stanley.
Yeah.
And they would do 12-hour shifts or 24 hours. They
Yeah.
would work shifts. Well, Dean and Elvis were good enough friends. I think Elvis almost saw Dean as a son.
Yeah.
And they were tight enough that they spent a lot of time together, where if it would have been, and I may be speaking a little bit out of school here,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty accurate in what I'm going to say, I feel like. That like David and Ricky wouldn't have been Dean and Elvis would sit in Lisa Marie's bedroom and watch TV and eat supper and hang out and talk and
Right,
sit in
right,
Elvis's
right.
room. Where if it was David or Ricky, they would only come when Elvis needed them.
Right,
Other than that,
right,
they
yeah,
would be
yeah.
playing pool or whatever.
Right, right.
But Dean and Elvis were like that,
Yeah.
and that's a fact.
Very
In
cool.
fact, the day that Elvis passed away, Dean had taken 3 days off on vacation because he knew, you know, the tour was coming up and
Yeah.
he wanted a little time, so he had taken 3 days off, or he would have probably been there, and maybe that would have changed the outcome.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know,
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But the day that the way he found out Elvis passed away was he was at Southland Mall buying a piece of exercise equipment that they were going to take on tour for
I
Elvis to
see.
exercise
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
and he heard it over the intercom
Yeah, yeah.
and rushed back to
Yeah,
the house.
yeah.
And that's how he found out about that. And
Okay, so let me digress again.
okay,
To get back to the Spa Guy channel,
okay,
it started out with the spas. It started out with
Yes.
your business,
yes.
and then where'd the turn go?
Okay,
When
so
the turn
for
come?
years, that was 2009. So I had a following. I was getting a lot of views. I had about 3,500 subscribers. And so I can remember when I got 100 subscribers. I was like, wow, you know, I'm on to something,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
And so I got to about 3,500 subscribers, and I wanted to do more. I had explored doing a reality TV show about the Spa Guy, about us doing repos and
Oh, right,
installing
right.
tubs, because I like a challenge. So if you go back, you can find videos of me putting hot tubs on crazy places by hand. Instead of hiring a crane,
Yeah,
I'll figure out how to put it on a 16-foot high deck by hand,
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff. Because I enjoy the challenge
Right,
of that kind of stuff, and I
right.
think it makes a great video.
right, right.
So I would do things for that purpose, you know, which is probably a little bit crazy, probably a lot crazy. But I would try different things, and I even tried different videos because I love history. And for me, for Elvis, and I think for most hardcore Elvis fans, if you're either on the Elvis train or you're off the Elvis train, you can't dabble in Elvis.
No.
You're either completely in it or you're completely out. So for years, I was out of the Elvis thing. I didn't really read the books or watch
Yeah,
the
you
movies.
did some history. I see you
Yeah.
were over in Belle Meade at one time
Yeah.
and did a thing about the train wreck there,
Yeah,
about the golf course.
It was the most deadly train crash in the United
Yeah,
States.
yeah, I saw
So
that
I just
episode.
tried things.
Very cool.
You know, so I would
Yeah.
try different episodes, different things that I thought were interesting.
Yeah,
And they somewhat caught on. You know, I have a second channel that has 12,000 subscribers, and I'll get 2,000 views on a video. I still make videos for that channel.
yeah.
Because it's things I'm interested in,
Okay.
but I don't have the same results that I have from the Elvis stuff.
Yeah.
So what happened is, I'm going to say this is 2021. I'm going to say 2016. My daughter had gotten married, and her husband was in medical school, and he had to come to Memphis for medical school. They met at Knoxville. She went to UT in Knoxville. He went to UT. They met there. She was in a sorority. He was in a fraternity that would do these events together, and they met, fell in love, got married. She graduated. She started teaching kindergarten, and he was still in school. He did 5 years there, where she did 4 years. He graduated with she graduated with a teaching degree. He graduated with a 5-year engineering degree in computer science. Which and it was a full ride, by the way. He's very, very smart. So that's, you know,
Nice.
hard. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
And very, very smart. So he went on to do medical school after they got married. They moved to Memphis.
I see.
And so, because the UT medical school is here in Memphis. So they stayed here 2 years. So prior to that, I was always a tourist coming here. You know, we come here and hit the hot spots. We go to Graceland, go to Sun Studios, and just do the basics. So after that, I found myself here about once a month. Her and my daughter go shopping, son-in-law studying for medical school.
I see.
And I had my camera, my drone, and my truck.
see.
And
Hey.
one Saturday, I went, you know what? I'm going to ride over there to Graceland. And I kind of stayed away from it, just being honest. I don't know why.
Right.
But I knew that I could make Elvis videos and
Yeah.
put them on YouTube, and I'd probably get hits. But I kind of, for whatever reason, mentally, I just went, I don't think I want to do that.
No.
But I finally broke down and went, you know what? I'm going to ride over there. Because I wondered, what I did that day was I said, you know, what's past Graceland? I'd never driven past it. There's a Days Inn there. I've really never been down that road past the Days Inn. What's down there? You know? what's behind it?
Yeah,
I'd driven
yeah,
down
yeah.
where Vernon's house was.
Vernon,
I knew where
right
it was on
behind 'em.
Dolan,
Wow.
but I'd never really ventured any further than that. So that day I rode down there. I went down to Southland Mall and kind of looked, and I thought, I know Elvis was through here. What's behind this? I drove back there and looked, and I saw Vernon's house. And I remember driving by it. I passed by it. I was heading back towards Elvis Presley Boulevard, and I saw it on my right, and I thought, I bet you a lot of people don't know that house is there.
Hey.
So I threw it in reverse, and I backed up, and I parked, and I got out, and I flew the drone over it first.
Very cool.
And
I saw that episode.
You saw
yes.
The very first episode, other than I did a Tupelo episode.
You're kidding me.
A couple of years before that, kind of being funny.
Oh,
and
wow.
that episode, people have actually gotten mad with me because I jumped the ropes in the Tupelo house and kind of did some things I shouldn't have done. But I just thought it was comical, so I did that.
So
that was actually prior.
Okay, but Vernon's really was episode 1. Yeah.
Right. So what I did was I filmed it, got my camera, got out, and just kind of told the story. And went back, edited it, put it on the channel, and I got 30,000 views the first month. So I went, okay, I'm on to something here.
Hey.
So then I started going, okay, well, what's my next story?
Yeah.
So I remember seeing that picture of Elvis at Madison Cadillac walking through the parking lot.
Parking lot, yeah.
Jumpsuit on.
Yeah,
and
with Linda.
What in the world is this?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm going to go find where this picture happened at. Well, so I go over Madison Cadillac, and sure enough, there it is where it happened. So I told that story, speculated on why I thought he was wearing a jumpsuit. Turns out I was wrong.
Okay.
I speculated that because on that date that he was there, he was doing a show in Johnson City. And so I speculated that maybe they were there changing cars or whatever,
right.
Which logistically doesn't make sense because the airport is right by Graceland. Madison's all the way in town. It didn't make sense logistically, but I didn't know.
Right,
I was, pure speculation. Later, I got to ask 3 people that were in that photograph what that was about.
What did they say?
They said that Elvis was going to give Cadillacs away that day, and he thought, to him, that was Elvis. That wasn't a stage thing. If you expect to see Elvis, him wearing a jumpsuit's perfectly normal. And so that seems crazy to me.
It does seem crazy to me.
It seemed perfectly normal to him, which he's Elvis, so.
But street clothes. He was wearing,
but if you look,
that's
he's
costume.
wearing house shoes and a costume, but to him, that was Elvis. So they expected him to be Elvis. He was going to go give Cadillacs away that day, and by God, he did. So my block list is probably 3,000 or 4,000 long.
Is it?
Because some Elvis fans don't know how to act. So when they start getting mouthy and saying things that are out of the way, I simply just block them instead of tolerating them. And I think it makes it, I hate it for them, but it makes, I have to protect my mental health.
Right.
I also have to protect the mental health of the people that watch my videos. And I think it makes I started that